Cough cough. Medicine is so advanced in this world, why is there no effective cold medicine for the most common cold? Lin Yi rubbed his aching head vigorously, and started coughing in the morning. Holding a handful of cold and anti-inflammatory tablets in his hand, he couldn't help but sigh. However, as soon as the voice fell, the cold medicine in his hand suddenly disappeared in front of his eyes. Not only that, but at the same time, a mechanical prompt sounded in the drowsy mind. Feeling the master's will, the decomposition and reconstruction system is now activated. The owner has recovered a handful of common anti-inflammatory and cold medicines, and the system has been decomposed and rebuilt by the owner. The owner gets 2 special cold medicines. All of this happened so suddenly that Lin Yi froze in place for a while. It took a long time for him to react, and he couldn't help but murmur to himself, "Damn it, did I have a hallucination just now?" Just when he saw the 2 capsules without any words in his hand, he was dumbfounded. The cold medicine he wanted to take was obviously a pill. How did it become a capsule? Picking up the tablet with a few pills at hand, Lin Yi suddenly felt a daze in his head. What is this? Is this all true? He has been silent in online novels for many years, and he is no stranger to the system, but he never imagined that the legendary system would appear on his body. Xiaoai, what are you doing? Today is the last mock exam before the college entrance examination. You should finish your medicine and go to school. I don't expect you to take 985 and 211 exams. At least you will give us a university. Okay. The mother's nagging voice suddenly pulled back Lin Yi's thoughts, and she didn't care what system she was thinking about. If she didn't withdraw, the solace of her shoes would fall on her. But for safety's sake, Lin Yi didn't eat all the 2 cold medicines, but he picked up one and threw it into his mouth while dealing with his mother. After that, Fu Ye put on his coat, picked up his school bag, and rushed out of the house, and he threw the remaining cold capsule into the school bag. It's good to run fast. Hey? No, why do you feel like you have endless energy? Damn it! This cold is so good. Sitting astride his bicycle, Lin Yi felt that something was wrong. He had been catching a cold for several days. How could he suddenly feel better? The first thing he thought of was that cold capsule. My God, this is too amazing. Wow, haha. This time, the buddies are awesome. Thinking of the system, he couldn't wait to start calling in his mind. System. System. Quickly introduce yourself to me. Following Lin Yi's call in his mind, the mechanical prompt sounded again. Answer to the host's question, system name, decomposition and reconstruction system. System function, unlimited categories, any object can be decomposed and recreated randomly. Remarks, the owner can also propose the type of remanufactured item. For example, the difference between the decomposed item and the remanufactured item is not large. The system can make up a small amount of difference for the master. System level, level 1, can recreate items once a day. Damn it! It's so awesome! If you buy a scrapped luxury car yourself, doesn't it mean that you can directly disassemble it and build a brand new one? After listening to the introduction given by the system, such an idea suddenly popped into Lin Yi's mind. Moreover, it seems that the feasibility of this idea is quite high. The college entrance examination is coming soon, so I will go get a car during the holidays after the college entrance examination. Then when I go to college, if I drive $1 million luxury car. Wakaka. Lin Yi, who was sitting on the bicycle, seemed to have seen the girls in the university waving at him. Lin Yi. If you don't hurry to school, what are you doing downstairs? Do you owe me a fight? However, a sudden explosion from upstairs brought Lin Yi, who was immersed in crookedness, back to reality. Immediately, he got on his bicycle and ran towards the school without even looking back. When his figure disappeared at the door of the community, the figure on the third-floor window shrank back, but when he saw Lin's father sitting at the dining table and drinking porridge leisurely, he immediately became angry. Lin, look at this good son you gave birth to. Usually he is everywhere, and when it comes to the exam, it's nothing. You don't know what to do, and you know how to play with your broken pieces all day long. Son. As usual, stepping on the class bell, he came to the class and sat in the exclusive seat in the back corner of his class. Boss, haven't you caught a cold these 2 days? It looks more energetic than me. The best friend on the side saw Lin Yi coming, and couldn't help but ask a question with some doubts, but before Lin Yi could speak, the old class Mi Ju Shi Tai had already pushed the door and walked in, holding a thick stack of test papers in his hand. Everyone, get ready, start the exam now. Today is your last exam in high school. Show me your skills. Let me see all your strengths. Still nagging as usual? Encouragement, yes. After a series of encouragement, the test papers finally began to be issued. At this moment, there was a continuous coughing sound from the front row. But no one takes it too seriously. The weather is really not normal recently, and it's normal to have a cold. However, just after the paper is sent out and the exam is about to start, when everyone is writing their names, Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com coughs sent again. And it was very urgent, which seemed so abrupt and obvious in this quiet classroom. Now it was the exam, and it was the last mock exam. The sound of coughing made those good students frown. But when he saw that it was Xiao Zihan, the ugly girl in the front corner of the class, he shook his head, but he couldn't help but complain a few times in a low voice. Hearing the complaints from the classmates, Xiao Zihan in the front row lowered his head even more, and at the same time covered his mouth with his hands, trying to keep his coughing as quiet as possible. Speaking of a girl, her figure is quite good. She is 1.72 meters tall, but she has been wearing loose school uniforms all the year round since 3 years of high school, and the big old glasses that look like reading glasses look like dirt. The most important head has never been raised very much. Even if her head is raised occasionally, her long hair will cover most of her face. Perhaps this is related to the reason why she lost her parents when she was a child, which makes her a little inferior. Because of this, she was nicknamed an ugly girl by her classmates. Xiao Xiao, you can't do this. You will have the exam in a few days. If it's too uncomfortable, the teacher will send you to the bathroom to have a look. It can't affect your grades because of the cold. The voice of the old class also rang at this time. She also loves and pities this girl who has been the first in her grade for a long time. She knows that even if this child has a cold, she will definitely be reluctant to buy cold medicine. Lao Ban, it just so happens that I have some cold medicine here to relieve cough, why don't you give it to her first? Suddenly, a vigorous male voice came from the corner at the back of the class, and all the eyes of the class immediately focused on Lin Yi. To be continued. Lin Yi didn't take it seriously to the surprised eyes of everyone, but stood up with a smile on his face and walked towards the front row. In his hand, it was the small paper bag with special cold capsules. Originally, this had nothing to do with Lin Yi, but suddenly his eyes lit up. I ate one of the 2 cold capsules I made in the morning, and I have one left. I just took this Xiao Zihan as an experiment to see if the pills have any effect on others. If this pill can cure a cold, then you can make a fortune by relying on it in the future. Shi Tai Mi also glanced at Lin Yi in surprise, wondering if this guy knew something. After all, she knew that the boys called Xiao Zihan an ugly girl in private. On weekdays, the boys would like to hide when they see Xiao Zihan. Just like this, under the surprised eyes of the teacher and classmates, Lin Yi came to Xiao Zihan's seat very naturally, and handed the paper bag in his hand to him. Nyo, my medicine works quite well. I just took one in the morning. Lin Yi didn't lie, the medicine really worked and he did take one in the morning. Xiao Zihan, who was covering his mouth and bowing his head, suddenly saw an extra white palm in front of him, and his whole body was stunned. Immediately, he secretly raised his head and glanced at the tall and handsome boy in front of him, his cheeks flushed instantly. After hesitating for a while, he shook his head and said softly, "Thank you, no need," then thought of something, and hurriedly lowered his head again. With just this shaking of his head, the long hair that originally covered his face suddenly slipped to the sides, and the whole face was leaked out in no time. Although he hurriedly lowered his head again, it also made Lin Yi, who inadvertently looked over, dumbfounded. Because of the cough just now, Xiao Zihan took down the old-fashioned glasses and put them on the table. It was precisely because of this that a face appeared in front of Lin Yi's eyes without reservation. Her skin is porcelain white, her face is as beautiful as a lotus flower, she is a little shy in confusion. How can she describe a country and a city? I suck. Am I dazzled? Is this Nima an ugly girl? Is this Nima all the men in the class are blind, or is there something wrong with my aesthetics? The old class on the side didn't see Lin Yi's expression due to the angle problem, so he said directly, "Since Lin Yi has medicine, Xiao, you should take it first." "All right," Lin Yi will hurry back to prepare for the exam. Lao Ban's words also pulled back Lin Yi's thoughts. After he put the paper bag with the capsule in his hand on Xiao Zihan's table, he took a deep look at the bowed head before turning around. Back to his seat. "Boss, you are so awesome, you really don't want to eat meat and vegetables." Just as he walked back to his seat, Li Huiqan, his best friend next to him, gave him a thumbs up, and he couldn't help but sigh. It's just that Lin Yi was not in the mood to pay attention to this guy, and now his mind is full of Xiao Zihan's pretty face. It is no exaggeration to say that Xiao Zihan is not at the same level as the school girl at number 3 middle school today. Lin Yi can be sure that if Xiao Zihan was asked to replace the white school uniform with a dress, and then take off the dirty glasses, it would be much prettier than those first T-line actresses. When Lin Yi returned to his seat and stared at the somewhat inferior figure, Xiao Zihan in the front row also put on his glasses again, and then reached out and carefully took out the capsule. After hesitating for a while, he seemed to have made up his mind. He picked up the water bottle from which the paint had fallen off and ate the medicine directly into his stomach. Seeing this, Shi Tai couldn't help sighing in his heart. She's a poor and strong little girl. I hope she can have a good home in the future, but don't look for a like Lin Yi. Xiao Zihan felt that his mind became clear after the pills were placed in his stomach. The original itching in her throat disappeared in an instant, but since she was a child, she only drank more hot water when she had a cold, and she only thought that this cold medicine was that kind of precious and good medicine. I was really deceived by this girl's disguise before. I didn't expect this golden phoenix to be by my side. Everyone has a love for beauty, and Lin Yi's current age is also the age when his love is just beginning, so he naturally has a strong possessiveness towards beautiful things. Perhaps it is not an exaggeration to say that it is love at first sight. At this time, Lin Yi didn't even have the heart to think about the test. It's been 10 minutes since the test started, and this guy didn't even write his name. There was a sudden desire for protection in my heart. I was thinking about how to pick this hidden snow lotus in my hand before anyone else found it. After just a moment, this guy became depressed. It would have been better if he had found out sooner. However, in 1 week, the college entrance examination will take place. By then, with Xiao Zihan's grades, that will be the score line that swept any university in the country. Looking down at this empty test paper. No, I also want to go to university. I must get a good grade in the test. Then I will apply for the same university with Xiao Zihan. Looking at Xiao Zihan's back, Lin Yi was filled with a desire for protection, and at the same time he set a goal for himself. Gritting his teeth, he looked at the test paper in front of him. A perfect score in the test starts with the test paper in front of you. However, the next moment Lin Yi couldn't help sighing. Well, he knows every letter on the English test paper in front of him, but he doesn't know it when it's linked together. Suddenly, his eyes lit up, and then there was a burst of ecstasy in his heart. It's foggy. Why did you forget the system? Now that you are a ruthless person who has the system, is there any difficulty in getting good grades? Thinking of this, Lin Yi was instantly filled with fighting spirit, and at the same time he began to think about how he would use the system to get a good score. Just thinking about it, I really don't have a clue. Could it be that you disassembled and recycled the test papers when you took the test? But let's not talk about whether it can be effective or not, just say that this decomposition and reconstruction is only once a day, and there is indeed more than one subject every day. It was like this for nearly 2 hours. As for the test paper in front of me, except for Lin Yi's name when Shitai came down for a walk, the rest of the paper was blank. Even in the past, I didn't even have the behavior of drawing lots and copying reading comprehension to the later writing questions. Jingle bell when the bell rang, this exam was over. Looking at the blank exam paper that was taken away, Lin Yi didn't show the slightest expression, still sitting there frowning. Even Li Huiqan came over and asked him to go to the toilet together. Just waved his hand impatiently. Right now, he can be said to have the ox fork system in his body, but he has no clue about improving his grades. And just when he was frowning, he suddenly felt that there was a figure in front of him, and he immediately frowned. Uncle G's Li Huiqan, you can't pee yourself. It's nothing, you have to pull the old, er. No, Xiaozihan is you, hey, what's the matter? To be continued. Raising his head, what surprised Lin Yi was that it was not Li Huiqan who was standing in front of his desk at this time, but Xiaozihan who silently lowered his head. At this time, Xiaozihan had put on those large old-fashioned glasses again, and turned into an ugly duckling again. Thank you for your cold medicine. I see that you handed in a blank paper. This is for you. Seeing Lin Yi raised his head to look at him, Xiaozihan's face, which was covered by long hair, involuntarily wore 2 blushes. After saying thank you with some stumbling in her mouth, she quickly put a thick book in her hand on Lin Yi's table, and then turned around and left without waiting for Lin Yi to speak. And seeing this scene in the eyes of the classmates in the class, they couldn't help but stunned for a while, and some boys even pouted, but because of Lin Yi's reputation in the class, no one dared to coax. Of course, Lin Yi is the only one who thinks differently from these people. Ugly girl? Hee. Reaching out his hand, he picked up the thick notebook on the table in front of him and let it go. It was Xiaozihan's English notebook. When he opened a page, it was filled with dense and beautiful small characters, but it was a pity that Lin Yi didn't know anything except the symbols. But it doesn't matter if you know him or not. The corners of Lin Yi's mouth are slightly upturned. This should be regarded as a token of love. Of course, he just said it. After all, he knew that the other party gave him his notebook, mostly to pay back his cold medicine. The Onada exam will soon be over. Of course, Lin Yi's score this time is definitely the worst in history. As the school bell rang for a while, the students packed up their bags and went out. Watching Lin Yi carefully put the notebook into his school bag, Li Huiqan, who had already heard about this, was stunned for a moment. Boss, what kind of show are you doing? I'm a little confused. I'm confused, uncle, I have to work hard to become strong. It's strange that you wait for the weak chicken to understand it. If you have time, go buy a bottle of melatonin to supplement your brain. Don't go to Tsinghua University and Peking University. You can only go to a vocational school, you are nothing. Ugh Fuko. Yes. I'm really too smart. Halfway through, Lin Yi slapped his forehead suddenly, and his eyes lit up immediately. He ignored Li Huiqan, picked up his school bag and ran outside the classroom. The disciple left Li Huiqan behind and pointed at Lin Yi's figure. You just went to vocational education. Although my buddy's grades are not 985 in the test, there is no problem in taking an ordinary undergraduate test. He ran out of the classroom, got on his bicycle and headed for a pharmacy not far from the school gate. The inadvertent words just now made me think of feasible things that can quickly improve my learning ability. Inside the pharmacy, Lin Yi ran in a hurry and asked directly to the clerk inside, "Hey, hello, do you have any supplements to improve memory?" When the clerk of the pharmacy saw Lin Yi's dress, he immediately guessed the identity of the other party. After all, as the college entrance examination approached, more and more parents came to the store to buy brain-nourishing supplements for their children recently. However, there are very few children who come to buy them themselves. Yes, we have melatonin, a golden partner, and this Buneo pill, which is relatively popular. Many parents have bought them for their children. Following the clerk's line of sight, Lin Yi immediately saw a counter full of brain supplements, many of which were brainwashing advertisements on TV all day. After thinking for a while, Lin Yi looked directly at the Buneo pill recommended by the clerk. "Okay, just him, bring me a small box." "Just one box?" "These are all based on stages. Generally, there are 6 boxes per stage." Before the clerk could finish speaking, Lin Yi directly interrupted, "No, I'll bring a box. Please settle the bill." After rejecting the clerk's promotion, and finally spending 100 oceans to buy a box of Buneo pills, Lin Yi rode a bicycle and went home. Next is the time to wait. The system should be decomposed and rebuilt only once a day, so it is not feasible to try your own ideas until tomorrow. Faced with his mother's question about today's exam during dinner, Lin Yi just casually responded with an extraordinary performance and went back to his room. Time passed little by little, and finally in the torment, the time reached 12 o'clock in the morning. "Damn it, it's finally time." When the time reached the prosperity of 12 o'clock, Lin Yi directly rolled over and sat up from the bed, and immediately opened the box of Buneo pills beside the pillow and grabbed them all in his hands. At the same time, the system began to keep calling out in my mind, "System, system, I'm going to break down this pill and make it into a super brain boosting pill." Brush. As this idea appeared in his hand was completely emptied, and then a mechanical voice sounded in his mind. "The owner has recovered 7 health products, the system has been decomposed by the owner, the system replenishes the molecules, the replenishment is completed, and the reconstruction is in progress, and the owner obtains a super brain boosting pill." Under Lin Yi's nervous gaze, a small blue pill the size of a bean suddenly appeared in his empty palm. "Oh yeah! It's done!" Listening to the prompt sound in his head, Lin Yi couldn't help but wave his fist vigorously. This system is really powerful. He actually added a super brain pill to himself. He took a closer look at the little pills in front of him, and didn't find anything strange, and he didn't know what the effect of this thing was like. But thinking of the effects of the 2 cold medicines before, Lin Yi was immediately confident in the system's products. Because of his confidence in the production of the system, Lin Yi now seems to have unusual expectations. "I don't know if I will go against the sky after taking this brain-boosting pill." Thinking of this, Lin Yi, who couldn't wait, threw the small pill directly into his mouth, and then swallowed it without drinking water. Then, no more. That's all? This is the end? Why don't I feel anything?" "System, thanks to me trusting you so much, do you want to come out and give me a reasonable explanation?" "Master, don't be impatient, Buneo pill is waiting for the master to sleep in order to optimize the master's brain." After getting the answer from the system, Lin Yi finally felt relieved. It turned out that he needed to sleep by himself. I should have said it earlier. Thinking of this, Lin Yi hurriedly lay back on his bed, then closed his eyes and forced himself to sleep. Early the next morning, Lin Yi was awakened from his sleep by his mother's knock on the door. It's just that this time, what surprised Lin Yi was that when he was forcibly woken up, he didn't feel the same confusion as when he woke up in the past. On the contrary, he felt that his brain was unprecedentedly clear. Blinking eyes, is this the effect of the super brain pill? To be continued. Under his mother's nagging, Lin Yi couldn't take the test. After hurriedly eating, he went straight to school by bike. Seeing her son's positive attitude, the mother couldn't help but be surprised. In the classroom, when Lin Yi came over, the classmates in the class were studying for self-study. Seeing Lin Yi, who had never been in self-study before, suddenly appeared, all the classmates couldn't help but be surprised. After ignoring anyone, he walked to his seat on his own, and took out the brand new math textbook from his school bag. Just a moment later, Lin Yi couldn't help but exclaimed, "Fuck! Do you want to be so arrogant?" This exclamation seemed so abrupt in the very quiet classroom, and all of the classmates all turned their attention to Lin Yi. It's just that Lin Yi didn't know anything about it. Now Lin Yi's attention is all on the textbook in front of him. The advanced mathematics knowledge that made him want to sleep when he reads it, is now in Lin Yi's eyes. He can read it very clearly after just reading it once. This is also the reason why he was shocked and swears. Could this be the effect of the super brain boosting pill? It's too outrageous. Now Lin Yi's brain is like a supercomputer. Learning things is as easy as copying and pasting. And the most important point is that I can vaguely recall the content of the classroom since childhood, even if I didn't listen to it at the time, I still have a certain impression. Then, there was a surprising scene in the morning self-study, that is, Lin Yi turned into a good student, and he kept flipping through the books throughout the morning self-study. It's just that this guy's speed of turning the book is a bit fast, and the longest time spent on each page is not more than 10 seconds. Of course, the students did not think that Lin Yi was really studying. Bell as the bell rang for a while, the classroom became lively. At this time, Lin Yi had also put down the math textbook in his hand, and he had already engraved all the above contents in his mind. It's just that he still doesn't quite understand some knowledge points that are not covered in books. After all, he has left too much homework before. But it doesn't matter. If you don't understand, someone will definitely understand. So, the next moment, under everyone's astonished gaze, Lin Yi walked straight towards Xiao Zihun in the front row. "Lend me your math notes." Seeing that it turned out to be a bad boy in Lin Yi's class coming over, although the other party gave him a cold medicine yesterday, Xiao Zihun moved towards it subconsciously. It's just that when he heard the other person's tougher tone, he subconsciously reached out and handed over his math notebook. After getting the math notes, Lin Yi just smiled at Xiao Zihun, and didn't stop there. He turned around and returned to his seat, and began to look quickly under the puzzled eyes of his classmates. If you want to have a long way with Xiao Zihun, you can't be in a hurry. What you need to do now is to improve your grades quickly. I have to say that Xiao Zihun's notes are really detailed. After reading the notes, Lin Yi felt that he understood all the knowledge points he didn't understand before. Although this notebook is very thick, Lin Yi turned the pages really fast enough. Before the class bell rang, Lin Yi still finished the thick notebook. After closing the notebook in his hand, Lin Yi didn't stop at all. Before the class bell rang, he quickly got up and came to Xiao Zihun again. Carefully, she put the notebook in her hand on Xiao Zihun's desk, and said under Xiao Zihun's doubtful eyes, "Nyo, I'll give it back to you after reading it, and lend me the rest of your notebooks. I'll pay you back after class." Hearing that Lin Yi was still relatively strong, Xiao Zihun nodded instinctively, but in her heart, she did not think that Lin Yi really spent a few minutes reading her notes. But he didn't understand what Lin Yi meant, but he instinctively reached out and took out all the notebooks of various disciplines under his desk. Oh. No, it's okay, you can watch it slowly, I'm not in a hurry." When talking, Xiao Zihun didn't even dare to look into Lin Yi's eyes. Lin Yi, on the other hand, directly picked up the stack of notebooks and turned around to return to his seat with a gracious sigh. She just took a step, but stopped again. Then she looked at Xiao Zihun, who lowered her head, and said, "In the vertex expressions of the three forms of the analytical expression of the quadratic function on page 18, you marked one less quadratic symbol, and in the fractional exponent power on page 31, you marked it with a less than sign when a is greater than 0. After talking about the little details that he had just discovered during the reading process, Lin Yi left Xiao Zihun, who was stunned, and returned to his seat to continue reading. Now there are only 4 days left before the college entrance examination is completed, and although I have a super brain, I still lack too many knowledge points. If you want a better result, UU reading www.uugonshu.com must make good use of every minute and second that follows. After he left, Xiao Zihan hurriedly opened his notebook and searched according to Lin Yi's instructions, only to find that he had not written a quadratic symbol and the wrong less than sign. Xiao Zihan was stunned for a while. She didn't know how Lin Yi discovered these small details of her mistakes. Could it be that he really finished reading his notebook in a few minutes? But this isn't scientific, is it? Not to mention that I flip through my notebook every day and have never found these little details. Just saying that the other party has the bottom to last score every time, how can I understand these formulas? What's the matter, Xiao Zihan? What was Lin Yi talking about just now? When Xiao Zihan was flipping through the notebook, her desk mate Wang Lingling also looked over and asked curiously. No, he helped me point out a few mistakes. Hearing Xiao Zihan's words, Wang Lingling's eyes widened in disbelief. What? Are you sure he pointed out the mistake for you? It's no wonder Wang Lingling's expression of disbelief is really unbelievable. It's really unbelievable that the last student in the class pointed out the wrong thing to this classmate who was the first in the class. However, Xiao Zihan's character is indeed not a liar. Unbelievably, he turned around and looked at Lin Yi in the corner of the back row, and immediately saw that this guy was quickly flipping through his notebook, with a very serious expression on his face. For a while, countless question marks floated in Wang Lingling's heart. Is this really reading a book? To be continued. As the class bell rang for a while, the head teacher, Shi Taimiju, walked in with a stack of test papers in his hand. The classroom also quickly became quiet. It's just that when the classroom became quiet, a strange voice emerged. Brush brush. Everyone followed the voice to find the past, and finally all their eyes fell on Lin Yi in the last row. It's just that Lin Yi was all focused on the notebook in his hand at this time, and he didn't even notice the bell of the class just now. The old class standing on the podium frowned when he saw Lin Yi's actions. It just thought that they would take the college entrance examination and finish their high school career in 4 days, and they didn't scolded Lin Yi in public as before. But she couldn't let Lin Yi influence other classmates, and this time Lin Yi actually handed in the blank paper and got 0 marks, which made her very dissatisfied with Lin Yi, so she frowned and greeted with a sound, Lin Yi, come here and send out the test papers. However, as her voice called out, the next moment the class fell into an even more weird atmosphere. For no other reason, Lin Yi ignored Shi Tai's instructions directly, and didn't even bother her at all. Damn it, the boss is awesome. This is the rhythm of hard steel. She looked at Shi Taimiju, who had an angry expression on her face on the podium, and Lin Yi, who was still flipping the pages of the book in his own way. Li Huikan on the side couldn't help giving a thumbs up. However, how could Lao Ban tolerate Lin Yi's performance? Sure enough, the next moment Lao Ban went into a frenzy. Hearing a loud bang, Lao Ban slammed the stack of test papers in his hand onto the podium in front of him, and then roared at Lin Yi, who was still flipping through the books in the back row, in a very bad tone, Lin Yi. Stand up for me. Lin Yi, who was concentrating on reading, was startled by this lion's roar. He raised his head in confusion and looked at the podium. He immediately saw the angry old class. It's just that this guy didn't know why Lao Ban was so angry, and he was still muttering in his heart, what kind of blind man dared to provoke Shi Taimiju? But after seeing the whole class looking at him, he suddenly had an ominous premonition. Lin Yi, you are very skillful. Don't think that there are still a few days before your college entrance examination, and I will be no way for you, there is nothing I can do about you. The students in the classroom all shrank their necks, knowing that this time, Shizue was really annoyed. After all, every time Shizue spoke English like this, it was when Shizue asked his parents. If it was before, Lin Yi couldn't even understand what Lao Ban said in English, but this time it was not the case. Today, his English level is quite good. However, in the face of this sudden reprimand, Lin Yi was a little confused. Isn't this a disaster for himself? Why did you get scolded for reading a book so well? What's the situation, old class? I'm studying hard right now? I didn't make trouble. English subconsciously, a series of standard English popped out of Lin Yi's mouth. After speaking, he innocently picked up the half-read chemistry book in his hand and showed it to Old Ban. It's just that when Lin Yi said these words, everyone in the class was stunned and looked at Lin Yi with bewildered expressions. What's going on? What Lin Yi said just now turned out to be a very standard English. But isn't this unscientific? All the classmates have a clear idea of who has what kind of grades for 3 years. How could Lin Yi, who has always been in the bottom 3, speak such English? It's just that the boss standing on the podium may have been really off by Lin Yi. He didn't notice this for a while. After hearing Lin Yi's rebuttal, he was so angry that he scolded again, reading books? How about fooling you? Are you reading books like that? You could be perfunctory before, but this time you handed me a blank paper? I'll call your parents in a while and ask them to see how their sons read books. English this time, it was even more powerful. Shizui Shitai simply said a sentence in English. And because he was angry, his tone was also very fast. After such a long speech, even Xiao Zhihan didn't understand a few words in front of him, let alone the rest of the classmates. Old class, your sentence is a bit ill-formed, you're fooling a ghost should be the right way to say it. English. After saying this sentence, the old class on the podium in front of him immediately continued to retort in English, don't give me sloppy eyes, I can say whatever I like, English. No. How dare you talk to me in English? Chinese. Halfway through the sentence, Shi Tai finally reflected, and immediately opened his mouth wide with an inconceivable look, and the words that followed were directly changed back to Chinese. At this time, the classmates in the class had long been dumbfounded, and they all looked at Lin Yi with the appearance of a monster. Damn it, this guy is hiding too deep. It is no problem to pass the 8th level of oral English. On the side, Li Huiqan swallowed with a grunt, and his face was full of deep disbelief. Others may not know Lin Yi very well, but Li Huiqan, who grew up together, is very familiar with Lin Yi. Just now, the fluent Englishman was really the brother who once swore with him, I'm from China, I don't learn bird language? Fuck me, the clown turned out to be me. You boy, this English. When Shi Tai was halfway through speaking, he realized that he didn't know what to say. Mainly because it really subverted her cognition. Come here and take this test paper back and do it again. Show me your true strength. Suddenly thinking of yesterday's test paper, Shi Taiju immediately lowered his head and rummaged through Lin Yi's blank test paper. Do it again? Isn't this delaying my reading? Although Lin Yi was very reluctant, he had to listen to Lao Ban's words, so he could only step onto the podium. However, in order to save time to the greatest extent, he came under the podium and looked at Xiao Zihan's seat next to him. He simply stretched out his hand and took a pen in Xiao Zihan's hand, lend me to use it. Immediately after taking the test paper from the old class, he didn't go back at all, he just bent down on Xiao Zihan's desk and began to answer the questions. Feeling that her hand was empty, Xiao Zihan was obviously stunned. Looking at the pen that Lin Yi had already held in her hand, she couldn't help but feel distressed. It's not that he is reluctant to use it for Lin Yi, mainly because the cap of his pen is being bitten by Lin Yi in his mouth. To be continued. In the classroom, the entire classroom was unusually quiet at this time, except for the rustling sound of the pen writing on the paper. Click. With the sound of a pen falling on the desk, Lin Yi nodded with satisfaction, then shook the test paper in his hand and handed it to the head teacher, who was shocked. I've finished writing the old class. Reaching out her hand and subconsciously taking the test paper handed over by Lin Yi, she was really shocked at this moment. A test paper took only 5 minutes in total. At this speed, even if she answers by herself, she can't finish the answer. Of course, if it's just fast, it doesn't mean anything. After all, Lin Yi used to be able to answer a test paper in 5 minutes. It's just that this time Lin Yi not only answered under her nose, but as he observed every answer Lin Yi answered, it turned out to be all correct. Not only that, but the English composition at the end is even more perfect. It is not an exaggeration to use it as a model essay. No, thank you for your pen. When Lao Ban glanced at the test paper and then at Lin Yi with a face full of confidence, Lin Yi took the pen cap off his mouth and closed it, and handed it to Xiao Zihan, who was blushing. No, you're welcome. Hearing Xiao Zihan's very gentle voice, Lin Yi couldn't help sighing in his heart. Before that guy Li Huican complained to himself that it was a pity that such a nice voice gave an ugly girl invincible. Now it seems that this guy Li Huican is nothing. Old class, can I go back to read this time? After shaking his head with a smile, Lin Yi didn't intend to waste his time, so he looked at Lao Ban again and said. Well, let's go, hey. Okay, Li Huican, come over and pass the test papers to everyone, and we'll start the class. Also, just now, Lin Yi's composition is very perfect, Zihan, come and copy it on the blackboard. Superior. Soon this little episode was over, and Shitai Mimi also began to talk about the test paper. The only difference from before is that there is a book turner in the corner at the back of the classroom. However, although many times the sound of flipping the book was very abrupt in the quiet classroom, Shitai Ju didn't pay attention to it at all. Even sometimes, when his eyes swept over there would be a hint of relief on his face. Bell bell bell. With the sound of the end of the get out of class bell, the old class's class finally came to an end. However, the old class did not leave the classroom in a hurry, but went straight to Lin Yi in the back row. Lin Yi, come with me to the office. After speaking, he took the lead and walked towards the office. Seeing this, Lin Yi, who was flipping through the book, could only helplessly shake his head and follow. In the office, Mi Shitai sat at his desk and looked at the ignorant student in front of him. He had more than just a bunch of feelings in his heart. Old class, what instructions do you have for me? Hehe, the college entrance examination is coming soon. I have to hurry up and read books, or else I won't be able to pass the 985 test, it will be a shame for you. Don't give me a bad boy, tell me, what's the matter with your English? Mi Shitai is now full of questions, what the is going on with this stinky boy, and why all of a sudden his English is even better than his own teacher. As for Mi Shitai's question, Lin Yi naturally couldn't answer directly, so he could only say haha, hey, of course, you taught me well on weekdays. Plus, my brain is very good, and my memory is super powerful. I can't think of it otherwise. Pfft. Lin Yi, your kid is not afraid of the wind, the thing that the mud can't hold on the wall, and the memory is super. Come, if you can memorize this periodic table of elements in 10 minutes, you will love my class. Do whatever you want. Just as Lin Yi was talking, a yin and yang strange voice suddenly sounded beside him. Without looking back, Lin Yi knew who was speaking, Dong Jingjing, his own chemistry teacher. Don't get me wrong, although this guy is called Jingjing, he is a real man. With a height of about 1.5 meters, wearing these small glasses, it is full of bad water, and his speech is even more sarcastic on weekdays. It's even more commonplace to ask a parent if you have nothing to do. Hearing this mocking voice, even Shitai couldn't help frowning, but he didn't say anything. After all, he was a colleague in an office. Hehe, there is no problem with memorizing this, but the conditions have to be changed. In 4 days, the college entrance examination will be taken, and tomorrow will be all self-study classes. I'm afraid I won't have the chance to take your classes in the future. Hearing Lin Yi's words, Dong Jingjing snorted, Yo, you're quite confident, so tell me a condition. As long as you can memorize it within 5 minutes, I'll agree to any condition. If you can't memorize it, you can copy the original chemistry book to me. Dong Jingjing didn't believe that Lin Yi could memorize the periodic table of elements. After all, Lin Yi's level was always there on weekdays. But for the sake of safety, I love you, this guy has the audacity to shorten 10 minutes to 5 minutes. Lin Yi just curled his lips in disdain, and immediately said, "That's what you said, I will agree to any conditions, but the boss is listening here." "Well, I will not embarrass you. If I memorize it within 5 minutes, you will sing me a song of conquest in front of the whole class. Is that okay?" Don't say 5 minutes, Lin Yi today can imprint the entire periodic table of elements in his mind with just a glance. "Come on, Sister Wang, give me a proof." Dong Jingjing was also a bachelor. While handing the periodic table of elements in her hand to Lin Yi, she opened her mouth to master Me. At the same time, he didn't forget to take out his phone and turn on the timer. Then, "It's time to start, there are still 4 minutes and 51 seconds. Seeing this guy's appearance, Lin Yi smiled disdainfully at the corner of his mouth, and then he took a look at the periodic table of elements without hesitation. A few seconds later, directly under Dong Jingjing's puzzled gaze, he threw the periodic table back to Dong Jingjing. "Humph, I'm not self-sufficient, I don't know what virtue I have? You're still dancing mysteriously with me, and you don't even know the words on it." Seeing that Lin Yi just glanced at him and returned, Dong Jingjing pouted her lips in disdain, and even snorted in her heart. "Hee, Mr. Dong, it's a little too early for you to say this. Come and check the time, I'm starting to memorize it." Seeing Lin Yi's pretentious posture, Dong Jingjing didn't care at all. "Stop the ink, hurry up and recite it. Hee, this class happens to be mine, and I'm still waiting to sing Conquest for you." At the same time as Dong Jingjing's voice fell, Lin Yi's faint voice also sounded in the office: "Hydrogen helium lithium beryllium boron, carbon nitrogen oxyfluorine neon." To be continued. 1, 5, 10. At first, there was nothing, but afterward, every time Lin Yi spit out a word, Dong Jingjing's heart throbbed. 2 minutes later, Dong Jingjing was completely dumbfounded. He never imagined that Lin Yi, who once scored 40 points in the highest chemistry exam, would be able to recite the periodic table proficiently. That's 118 elements. How is it possible to remember everything at a glance? Haha, I'm sorry, Mr. Dong. I'll be waiting for you to sing in a while. Dong Jingjing opened her mouth and wanted to refute a few words, but this guy did not memorize a single word just now. However, he would definitely not believe that Lin Yi memorized it within this short period of time. Before he thought about it, Lin Yi would have memorized it before, but he just didn't know it. Humph, don't think it's amazing to memorize the periodic table of elements. The college entrance examination does not only rely on the periodic table of elements. Maybe he felt that he was losing face. After this guy left such a sentence, he stood up and walked out of the office with the test paper in his arms. "Mr. Dong, do you want me to help you prepare the lyrics?" Lin Yi naturally wouldn't let go of this guy who often invited his parents on weekdays. Just when Dong Jingjing was about to walk out of the office, Lin Yi shouted this sentence directly behind her back, and Dong Jingjing's figure was staggered. Seeing his embarrassed appearance, the corner of Lin Yi's mouth rose slightly. "You stinky boy is neither big nor small. Tell me the truth, is your memory really that powerful, or have you memorized the periodic table of elements long ago?" Obviously, I don't really believe in Lin Yuxiao's first-hand me shitai. It's not that there are no people with a strong memory, but there are really no people who can achieve what they just did. This must be true. I didn't even know how many elements were on the periodic table before. Mi Shitai looked at Lin Yi suspiciously, and finally said with some uncertainty, "Then let me try you? I'll find a book at random, turn to a page, and then write it down as quickly as possible. Lin Yi naturally had nothing to say about this kind of pediatric test. 5 minutes later, Master Miju was completely shocked. All this was actually true. This kid Lin Yi can really remember him. At the same time of shock, Shi Taiju was so angry that his teeth itch. This stinky boy has such a powerful memory, why can't he study weekdays? It's almost time for the college entrance examination, how could it be too late to be crammed? If you study hard, it's really not a problem to pass the exam. No. You must not let this kid go astray. There are still 4 days left. Learn as much as you can. If it doesn't work, I'll call his parents and ask him to repeat for a year. Such a good seedling can't be delayed. It's gone. With this thought in mind, Shi Taiju began to rummage. After a while, a large pile of books and lesson plans appeared on the table. No, take this back and read it yourself, and if you don't understand it, come to me right away. I will also prepare the materials for other disciplines for you. If you don't rest these days, you have to show me hard work. Finish. Bell bell bell. Holding a large stack of books, he stepped on the bell of the class and walked into the classroom. Dong Jingjing on the podium didn't pay any attention to Lin Yi when he saw him, and turned his head to look at Li Huican. Li Huican, send me the papers. But he ignored Lin Yi. Obviously Lin Yi would not ignore him. Hey, Mr. Dong, you have to be honest. After saying this, Lin Yi walked back to his seat carelessly and read the book on his own. On the podium, Dong Jingjing cursed Lin Yi 800 times in her heart, but she put on a smiley face and said to the classmates under the stage, haha, in a few days, you will have the college entrance examination. Can you see if the carp leaps to the dragon gate? Here, I wish you all to conquer the college entrance examination. In this way, I will sing you a song of conquest. I'm like this, I'm conquered by you, cut off all my escape routes. Hearing Dong Jingjing's words, Lin Yi pouted his lips in disdain. This guy is a dead duck, and this is his usual style. Since the other party sang, Lin Yi didn't make it difficult for the other party. After all, he had more important things to do now, so there was no need to waste time with him. Don't talk about things on the classroom side, just talk about the office side. At this moment Shi Tai is holding a mobile phone in his hand and making a call. Yeah, I didn't believe it at first, this stinky boy is really hiding. He answered an English test paper with full marks in 5 minutes in front of me. Hehe, the reason I called you was to ask you to think about his repeating grades. I just promised that this kid will definitely get a 985 after repeating the exam for a year. Mother Lin, who was at work, hung up her son's head teacher, pinched her face in a daze, and muttered to herself, I'm not dreaming, am I? After speaking, Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com hurriedly took out his mobile phone and called his husband. Hey! Lao Lin! Our son's class teacher just called me. It's not my son who caused trouble, it's the teacher who praised him. Perhaps Lin Yi studied too seriously, and the day passed quickly. Lin Yi almost mastered most of the knowledge in high school during this day. At this rate, he will be able to finish almost all the courses in one day tomorrow. When Lin Yi returned home with a stack of books he brought back from Laoban, his parents had not finished get off work. After looking at the time, it was too early, so I simply put the book on the coffee table. I was in a good mood. I was ready to show my mom and dad a hand and cook the meal. It's just that after Lin Yi put down the book, his eyes swept to a bunch of gadgets on the coffee table, and his eyes suddenly lit up. Oh, I rely on it, this is definitely a way to get money. Following his gaze, there was a small cardboard box on the coffee table, and inside was a pile of broken pieces of porcelain. These pieces of porcelain are not broken rice bowls, but ancient porcelain pieces that my father picked up in the antique market. In addition to drinking a little wine, Dad's other hobby is collecting antiques. It's just that because the family is not wealthy, it's natural to be unable to buy antique pieces, so I usually collect these pieces of porcelain for a few yuan a piece. Of course, Lin Yi had no interest in these things before, but now it's different. You must know that he now has a decomposition and reconstruction system. In this way, the meanings of these tiles are different. To be continued. Looking at the small box of broken pieces of porcelain on the table, Lin Yi couldn't help thinking about whether he would recreate an antique porcelain for himself after disassembling it and remaking it. Although the water in today's social antique trade is bottomless, there is no genuine product in the porcelain. Of course, the complete set of broken porcelain pieces is another matter, and there is still some fake value in it. However, there is not much tricks in this broken ancient porcelain piece. After all, this thing is not worth a lot of money, and even the cost of counterfeiting is not enough. Reaching out his hand, he grabbed the cardboard box on the coffee table and tugged it a few times. Lin Yi was instantly overjoyed. I have to say that the quality of my father's box of fragments is really lacking, not to say that it is a complete set, mainly because it is at least a period of things in it. This also makes Lin Yi a lot more convenient. If Dad has a box of porcelain from any age, even if the system is broken down, it is very likely that there will not be enough system elements. The only regret is that today's dismantling and remanufacturing has been used up. If you want to dismantle and remanufacture the box of porcelain in front of you, you can only wait until after 12 o'clock in the morning. But thinking that this is my father's treasure, just in case, Lin Yi simply took all this box of china fragments into his room. After hiding the china, he went out into the kitchen and started cooking while humming a song. When the 4 dishes and 1 soup came out of the pot, there was also the sound of the door opening. It was just that Lin Yi was a little confused because his mother and father looked at him with very strange eyes. Hey, it's really time for the 2 of you to come back. I dare to cook this meal, what kind of eyes are you looking at, Mom? Let me explain first, I really didn't cause trouble this time. The reason why he was the first to explain is that every time Lin Yi was so diligent in the past, he must have caused trouble outside. But this time, he really didn't get into trouble, because Lin Yi was in a good mood after getting the system. Of course, my parents didn't suspect that Lin Yi was in trouble, but after listening to Lin Yi's class teacher's phone call, it seemed that they didn't know the son in front of them. You brat! Do you really have the ability to never forget? In the end, Mother Yexiaoyi couldn't hold back. After changing her shoes, she walked over and pinched Lin Yi's face. She looked up and down and asked in disbelief. Hearing this question, Lin Yi also understood instantly, it should be my parents who knew about their school. You don't need to think about it, you know, it must be Master Mi Tai's complaint. However, this is not a bad thing. I can't say that because of this incident, my status in the family can be improved a little bit in the future, and it is very likely that I will surpass Comrade Lao Lin. Thinking of this, Lin Yi immediately put on a stinky smile. Hey, it's all known to you, then I won't pretend, I'll show down, your son, I really have the ability to remember. How, are you very proud? Hehe, then cheer for me bar. It's just that Lin Yi's stinky appearance didn't last for a minute, and he immediately turned into a bitter face. There was no other reason. After listening to Lin Yi's answer, Yexiaoyi was instantly angry. As soon as she bent down, she took off the slippers from her feet and patted it on Lin Yi's ass. While patting his mouth, he fiercely reprimanded, I'll call you a showdown. Slap. Ouch. It hurts. I told you to never forget it. Slap. I told you to stop pretending. Slap. Seeing that the situation was not good, Lin Yi immediately ran away, and soon ran behind his father, looking at the angry mother with a grieved expression. Comrade Xiaoyi, you are too unreasonable. Your son has the ability, you don't talk about rewards and rewards, why are you still using corporal punishment? Alas, there are no human rights. He reached out and rubbed his spanked ass. Although it didn't hurt much, Lin Yi still pretended to be miserable. Little bastard, do you still want human rights? Come on, I'll give you human rights. Lao Lin, hide for me, today I have to educate this well. You have the unforgettable skills. You don't know how to study all day long, and he gave me the last one in the exam. Look, I didn't take care of you today. As soon as he heard what his mother said, Lin Yi immediately understood that his emotional mother had misunderstood him, but he had no way to explain it. If I said that I only possessed the ability to remember the past few days, my mother would not believe it. I jumped up and down for a while, and finally stopped after my mother was tired. Looking at the panting mother, Lin Yi smiled helplessly, and finally helped her to sit on the dining table, not forgetting to pinch her shoulders. Hey, Empress Yat, why do you need to know me like me? Look, I'm fine with my rough skin and thick flesh. I'm so tired of your old man that you, your filial good son, have to feel bad for you. Yes, Yaoi threw off her son's hand angrily after hearing this. Com then pointed to his son's nose with an angry face and reprimanded, Okay, don't be stinky with me here, go eat quickly, and I'll go to school with you tomorrow, and discuss with your head teacher about repeating your grades. After saying these words, Yes Yaoi stopped paying attention to her son, picked up the rice that Lao Lin had just brought, and started to eat. But Lin Yi was stunned, and asked uncertainly, Repetition? What are you doing? Yes Yaoi put the rice bowl in her hand on the dining table, and her eyes widened accordingly. Why do you say repeating grades? Could it be that you really want to go to a specialist? Seeing that his mother was going to run wild again, Lin Yi quickly explained, Hey, Empress Yat, don't you look down on your son now? You said that you don't believe in your son or your own strength. I have inherited your old man's IQ. Okay, I will stop pretending, I will continue the showdown. This time I will not take the national champion, I will write all about Lin in the future. In the end, after Lin Yi reasoned and presented the facts and made 2 college entrance examination papers on the spot, the Queen Mother Yet and Lao Lin completely believed that their son really did not lie. After confirming that her son is very likely to be admitted to a 985 university, Ye Zio even shed tears in excitement, and Lao Lin also drank 2 more glasses in excitement. Anyway, when they finally went back to their rooms to sleep, Lao Lin, who was a little confused after drinking, didn't realize that his box of treasured shards had disappeared. Returning to his room, Lin Yi put the box of tiles next to the pillow, then lay on the bed and waited for 12 o'clock at night. To be continued. The waiting time was always long, and it was difficult for Lin Yi to fall asleep thinking about things in his heart. Finally, during the agonizing wait, the electronic watch in the bedroom jumped to midnight. Seeing this, Lin Yi, who couldn't hold back for a long time, turned over and started immediately, and immediately took the small cardboard box into his hand. In order to be safe, Lin Yi simply stretched out his hand and took out a large handful of porcelain pieces, all of which he held in his palm. When everything was ready, Lin Yi took a deep breath and called out the system in his heart. System, help me decompose this porcelain fragment and make it into a complete piece of antique porcelain. Brush. With this thought in his mind, the original heavy feeling in his hand suddenly became lighter, and at the same time, a mechanical voice sounded in his mind. A handful of the master's broken porcelain pieces were recovered. The system has already decomposed the master. The system has screened and optimized the molecules. The selection and optimization are completed. The reconstruction is in progress. As the sound of the system in his mind disappeared, Lin Yi only felt that there was something suddenly in his empty hand. Subconsciously, he hurriedly clenched it, and then looked over, and saw that there was a complete small porcelain cup in his hand at this time. The small porcelain cup is not big, only half the size of a palm, and the overall height is only about 10 centimeters. The overall shape is similar to that of today's goblet, but the upper part is bowl-shaped, as if a small bowl is installed on a base. Anyway, in Lin Yi's eyes, he didn't think there was anything good about this thing. But although he didn't think it looked good, he knew that this thing was definitely not cheap. Hey, you're really powerful in the system. You really got me an antique. Come on, I'll go to the antique market after school at noon tomorrow and sell you for the first pot of gold. After waiting for most of the night, Lin Yi was already sleepy, but now looking at the small porcelain cup in front of him, his original sleepiness disappeared instantly. Carefully placed the small porcelain cup on the desk, and Lin Yi turned on the computer and started searching. There is no way, who told high school students not to use mobile phones? Although my studies are not good, but the college entrance examination is coming soon, my mother still earnestly implemented the school's instructions and confiscated her mobile phone. The value of this antique is the most difficult to define, especially porcelain. Some antique porcelain can be worth tens of millions, while others can only be sold for a few $100s. For a layman like him, he could not tell the true value of this porcelain cup. Don't be fooled by people who use thousands of dollars to be worth tens of millions. Of course, there is actually one way that is the most convenient, and that is to find Dad and ask. With my father's knowledge of antiques, I believe that I can definitely determine the approximate value of this porcelain cup. At the very least, we can know whether the unit of its value is 10,000 or 100,000. But Lin Yi doesn't plan to let his father see it now, otherwise it won't be very easy to explain at that time. Thinking of the prompt sound just given by the system, Lin Yi typed the Yuan blue and white peony pattern goblet directly on the computer. After pressing the search button, Lin Yi was immediately stunned, and at the same time he couldn't help but let out an exclamation, "Damn it! This gadget is so valuable." According to the content searched above, Lin Yi was shocked to find that if this gadget was genuine, it would be worth at least 2 million yuan. An auction company in Shanghai once sold a similar goblet, and the final price was 2.71 million. Unexpectedly. I never thought that my first pot of gold could directly make myself financially free. 2 million, what kind of concept is this? With Dad's monthly salary of 5,000 yuan, it would take 30 years to earn it without food or drink. Thinking of this, Lin Yi became even more excited, his eyes turned to the tall porcelain cup again, and his eyes were filled with symbols of copper coins. I really want to pick it up and kiss it. In order to ensure the safety of this baby, Lin Yi found a roll of toilet paper and wrapped it inside and out. In the end, I was not at ease, so I found tape and packed it in a big package. Looking at the quilt wrapped like a zongzi, Lin Yi nodded in satisfaction. Hey, this is foolproof, even if it falls on the ground, I won't be able to drop my baby. After carefully putting it in his school bag, he returned to the bed excitedly, thinking about how he would use this huge sum of money. Early the next morning, the first thing Lin Yi did after waking up was to open his school bag and look at the zongzi. After seeing him lying quietly in his school bag, he breathed a long sigh of relief. As the saying goes, people feel refreshed at happy events, and Lin Yi is like that now. Calm down, we are also good men with systems, how can we get excited for such a small amount of money? Hey, calm down. Riding a bike on the road in the community, Lin Yi took a few deep breaths, and finally calmed down his excitement. Drop drop. Suddenly, there was a rush of loudspeakers behind Lin Yi, which immediately startled Lin Yi. Looking at my current position, I'm already on the sidelines. Is the car behind this sick? He turned around and was just about to see if it was a female driver, when an angry voice suddenly came from behind, the kid riding the bike in front, is this road driven by your family? Didn't you hear the car coming? Hurry to the side. You can't afford to scratch my car and sell it. Hearing the scolding behind him, Lin Yi couldn't help frowning. Looking back, I saw an old black Porsche Cayenne driving over, and a middle-aged man with oily hair and powder in the window was looking at him with an angry face. When Lin Yi turned around, the middle-aged man in the car was obviously taken aback for a moment, and then without waiting for Lin Yi to speak, he was still the first to speak in a superior tone. It turned out to be the boy of the Lin family. It's about to take the college entrance examination. I heard from your Aunt Lu that your grades have been poor. What's the matter? Where do you plan to work after the college entrance examination? Do you want to come to our company? In May, I'll get you 1018, how about it? The middle-aged man in the car called Sun Ji and Lin Yi lived in the same community. Not only that, his wife Lu Mei and his mother were also colleagues. However, the relationship with his mother is not very good. To be more precise, it should be that he has a bad relationship with all the women in the unit now. As for why, of course, it has something to do with her husband, who is said to have just been promoted to a company executive 2 months ago. Lin Yi often heard complaints from his mother at home on weekdays, saying that since Lu Mei's husband was promoted, he used his nostrils to look at people in the work unit all day long, with a superior attitude, and his speech was even sarcastic. To be continued. I don't know where this Lu Mei heard about Lin Yi's often last in exams. It seems that in order to show her noble status, she told her mother that it was not that kind of material, so she simply stopped going to school and asked her husband to arrange a job or something. My own son said yes, but if someone else said it was not that kind of material, how could my mother like to hear it? It's better now that Lu Mei's husband saw that he had brought up this matter, Lin Yi was immediately upset. However, with the general knowledge of such an incompetent person, Lin Yi felt that it was his own immaturity. It turned out to be Uncle Sunzi. Then I would like to thank Uncle Sunzi for his kindness. If I can't get into university, I will definitely find you. I have to go to school, so I'll go first. After speaking, Lin Yi didn't pay any attention to this guy, got on the bicycle and left. Looking at Lin Yi's back, Sun Ji pretended to be sighing and shook his head and said, "Alas, there's something that can't be supported by mud." Hey, manager son is a big Porsche, right? It's not worth millions? Tisk tisk, it's different when you become a leader. Just as Sun Ji was about to close the car window, a neighbor's hello sounded beside him. Hearing this compliment, Sun Ji felt very useful, and immediately waved his hand with a smug smile on his face. "Hey, let's make do with it. I bought a second-hand one, and I don't have much money. It's more than 50. I have something to do in my company, so I'll go first, old Wang." After speaking, he raised the window, stepped on the accelerator and left. Looking at the old Porsche with black smoke, the neighbor Lao Wang pouted in disdain. "This is a typical swollen face and a fat man. My son is a used car. Just this 2000 model old KN, there are more than 50,000, and it is worth 50,000 yuan at most. I really thought I didn't know." This little episode passed quickly, and Lin Yi didn't take it seriously at all. Just like yesterday, when I came to the classroom, I took out the book and quickly flipped through it. 1 book, 5 books. Maybe it's because there are certain repetitions in the content of many books. By the time school was over at noon, Lin Yi had already read all the study materials prepared by the old class for him, which was half a day sooner than expected. Time. I've finally finished watching it. He let out a long breath, raised his arms and stretched. Now Lin Yi dares to say that there are no high school knowledge points that he does not know. With his current level, as long as he is willing, there is no problem with getting a perfect score in the college entrance examination. Just so confident. Now that all the things above learning have been solved, the next thing is to make money. Bell bell bell. Just when Lin Yi was thinking about whether to ask for leave in the afternoon, the school bell rang at this time. "Boss, I will arrange Mela Tang, let's go." As soon as the bell rang, Li Huican next to him immediately jumped up and greeted Lin Yi to go to dinner. But now Lin Yi is not in the mood to go to dinner, and he has nothing to do with the book in the morning. His mind is now full of quickly buying the treasure in his school bag to make money. Just as he was about to refuse, he raised his eyes just to see Xiao Zihan in the front row who was taking out a lunch box from his desk pocket, and he immediately changed his mind. There is no rush to make money for a while, anyway. That baby can't fly anymore, it's still his lifelong event that matters. "Let's go, boss, what are you looking at?" Li Huiquan had already walked to the back door of the classroom at this time, but when he turned around, he saw Lin Yi still sitting in the seat, and immediately followed Lin Yi's eyes with some doubts. The next moment, Li Huiquan was a little confused. Could it be the ugly girl Xiao Zihun in front of the boss's gaze? Sure enough, the next moment Lin Yi's actions confirmed Li Huiquan's guess. Seeing Lin Yi stretch out his hand and put his school bag on his back, he stood up and walked towards the front. And his direction is impressively Xiao Zihun. Hey, I didn't eat in the morning, I'm so hungry, eh? Xiao Zihun, did you bring 2 steamed buns? I just happened to lend me one to help you pamper your stomach. Facing the crowd of students walking out, they came across to Xiao Zihun in front, and Lin Yi sat down directly. Looking at Xiao Zihun who was eating steamed buns with pickle strips, Lin Yi reached out and rubbed his stomach, then unceremoniously reached out and grabbed another steamed bun from Xiao Zihun's lunch box and stuffed it into it, chewed in a big mouth. This sudden scene suddenly made Xiao Zihun, who was concentrating on eating the steamed bun in his hand, froze there. He even forgot to chew the half-chewed steamed bun in his mouth. Not only her, Wang Lingling, who was at the same table next to her, was also dumbfounded. She rubbed her eyes vigorously. Damn me, what's the situation? Lin Yi actually came to grab Xiao Zihun's steamed buns to eat? Fuck. Boss, you. Li Huiquan, who was standing at the back door, immediately burst into foul language after seeing this scene, and immediately felt ashamed on his face. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Boss, this head is not stupid. That's an ugly girl. Can she eat? In an instant, the originally noisy classroom suddenly became eerily quiet. When Lin Yi saw this, his brows wrinkled, he turned his head and stared, and without waiting to speak, all the students who were watching the excitement turned their heads in a hurry and slipped away. Just very soon, a huge melon appeared in the school. Number 3 Middle School Colonel Cao Lin Yi had a very strong taste. He grabbed the steamed bun from the no. Seeing everyone leave, Lin Yi turned around again and looked at Xiao Zihun, who was still stunned. Chewed in a big mouth. Seeing Lin Yi's bold movements, Xiao Zihun finally recovered, but he was still a little overwhelmed. However, at this moment, Lin Yi, who was on the opposite side, stuffed the small half of the steamed bun in his mouth, and then stretched out his hand towards Xiao Zihun. After a while, Xiao Zihun subconsciously clenched the steamed bun he just took 2 bites into tightly, as if he was afraid that the other party would steal his last steamed bun as well. Don't, me, I'm not full yet. On the other side, Lin Yi was stunned when he heard the weak voice, and then he couldn't help but burst out laughing. However, the movement of his hand still did not stop, he still stretched towards Xiao Zihun, and then under his somewhat frightened gaze, he reached out and took off a crumb of a bun from his mouth. Xiao Zihun, who had reacted, blushed instantly, and Li Huiquan, who had witnessed all of this later, swears again. To be continued.